Hey, I'm Hugh. I work in our UK recruitment team.
And my name is Mia and I also work in the student recruitment team.
Hiya. So we're here today to answer any questions you might have about applying to university, writing your personal statement, about Manchester more generally. Tomorrow is the first day you're actually able to start submitting your application for undergraduate applications through UCAS. So if you have any questions about that, then feel free to ask.
And just while so everyone, if you can pop your questions in the comments and we'll go through them as we go, and we'll try and get through as many as possible. But in the meantime, we did put a call out on our Instagram to see if people had any questions. So we've got one from, I don't know who it's from, but Mia, if you answer this one. So when is the first day of uni? Someone wanted to know.
Yeah, so the first day of uni will be the 16th of September. So that's the start to Welcome Week, to help new students become more familiar with the campus and get to know the upcoming events.
Amazing, thank you. And then Hugh, one for you. Can you change course if you don't like it after attending classes?
So that's a tricky one. I mean, hopefully in the application process you can try and make sure that you found a course that you're really going to enjoy. But if it does happen that you think about changing course, then the thing to do is contact us as soon as possible. It might be possible, but that isn't always the case. So get in touch with the admissions team that you originally kind of applied to, and they can kind of talk you through the options. But you're best doing this very early on to see if it is possible.
Amazing, thank you. Someone has asked, and I don't know if they've got us mixed up with the Manchester University in the US, but they've asked, what if I want to get in but I'm from another state? So maybe if we answer it, but like for international students.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're not quite New Hampshire, but slightly further away. So we have lots of students from around the world. We're a very international university, so we absolutely are able to consider students from a wide variety of different countries. There's a lot of information on our website, both in terms of how to apply and how the UK education system works. And a little bit about Manchester that you might be interested in knowing from like an international student perspective. So go onto the website, have a look at the international section on the website, and that should hopefully get you started with kind of some of the key questions that you might have. UCAS as well is a really good starting point for more general resources for different universities, but we've got lots of information specific to Manchester.
Amazing. And someone is asking a course-specific question, asking what it's like to study medicine at the uni.
Oh, a fun one. And if you have any questions about French and Spanish, you want to ask Mia here as well. In terms of medicine at Manchester, it's quite a specific course, as you kind of would expect. We would explain a lot more about it at an open day, so I would recommend, if you get the chance to come to our open day. They are on the 28th of September and the 12th of October. There's a lot more information on the website as well, but it's a very practical course. There's quite a lot of steps to the application process, so if you want to know more, then do let us know in the questions. But in terms of the course itself, it's very much about learning, becoming a doctor, lots of practical elements in hospitals and doctor surgeries around Greater Manchester. So it's all about becoming a doctor, getting very practical, hands-on skills and supporting people or patients with lots of different issues. So very practical, quite a tricky one to get into. It's got quite a detailed application process, but we explain more about it at the open days. And the application process starts earlier, so you have to apply in October for medicine rather than the January deadline for everything else.
Amazing, thanks Hugh. Someone's asked, what are the engineering awards that can be won? I don't know if you know anything about that, or if you've got any specific questions about that, guys, then DM us and we'll look into like messaging the different schools and stuff. Someone's recognised where we are. Is this in Engineering Building A? I was there yesterday.
It is. It's the Nancy Raphael building now, but yeah, this is where we are in Macday. So you can tell from the glass and the concrete, I think.
Someone has asked, what is the best time to apply for management and finance?
So it depends. Sorry is my unfortunate answer to almost every question. So in terms of applying, and Mia can add on to this if she wants to, it's generally better to apply early. So if it's for undergraduate courses in management or in finance, then the deadline is in January, but it's better to apply earlier on than that. If it's a master's course in either management or finance, then in the business school we have a thing called staged admissions, so we have like groups of application, and therefore there's lots of different deadlines in terms of when you apply. Because of how competitive those courses are for masters, earlier is better, because we actually might not get to some of the later stages of the application. We might have filled up before then. But for an undergraduate course, any time before January, but earlier for your own sake is a little bit better.
Brilliant. So someone on Instagram asked, what is the best way to get a part-time job? So Mia, as a former student, I don't know if you've got some info on that.
Yeah, so I feel like, especially in Manchester, there's so many opportunities for work. So even me, alongside my studies, I did part-time work within hospitality. I would say the best place to start is probably the university's career service. They're very good, especially with once you graduate, but also when you're studying. They can help lead you in the right direction, whether that's working part-time outside of the university or whether you want to get more involved within the university as well.
Amazing, thanks Mia. And then someone else asked, what are the available scholarships for international students?
So it's your best off having a look. It really depends on the country and the course you're applying for. But you've got the, what are they called now? It's very specific. But if you go to the international section, there's a whole section about fees, funding and scholarships and bursaries. There are a handful of subject-specific ones, but normally it's the, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a very specific scheme that you can apply for. It's kind of, we'll explain a little bit more about the eligibility and stuff on there. So there's not tons of funding there, but there is definitely some opportunity. So have a look on the website. I think it's a global equity funding ones.
Brilliant, thanks Hugh. Someone has asked, what's the success criteria like for engineering courses?
So again, it will depend slightly, but in general we're looking at, first of all, the subjects that you're doing. So you need to be doing the right A-level subjects for undergraduate study. Normally that would be maths and then physics. For chemical engineering, it can be chemistry instead. So you need to do the right subjects. Then, in particular for engineering, we'll be looking at your predicted grades, so what you're expected to achieve, because you need to be kind of striving towards those higher grades, because for mechanical engineering it would be like 2 A stars and an A, aerospace is like A star and 2 A's, many of the other types of engineering will be around 3 A's. So good solid grades, good predicted grades. We do look at the personal statement beyond that as well, and that gives us a chance to see why you want to study that course, what kind of skills and experiences you have. But for engineering, we don't tend to have too many steps beyond that. So we don't tend to have interviews or tests. It's purely just based on the application. So good grades, good personal statement.
Brilliant, thanks Hugh. And then one for me, this is more about once you're here, is there a football team or club that I can join?
Yeah, so with the university we have so many societies and clubs, so football included, but I'm pretty sure there's literally so many options to choose from, and if, especially within societies and sports clubs, if there's something that you want to get involved in which doesn't already exist, you can start that up as well.
Amazing. And then, have you got any personal statement advice?
So I've read about 15,000 of them in my time at Manchester, so I've read a couple. General advice, I mean it does depend on the course, but general advice would be, it should be really clear what you're applying to and why. And just first of all, I should say everything I'm saying now is for students that are applying for 2025. So if you're applying this year, it changes slightly for students that are going to be applying next year for 2026. But generally we want to see why you're applying for that course, what it is you're applying for, and then generally your skills, enthusiasm and experience. So things like your understanding of the course, things like books that you've read, podcasts that you've listened to, events that you've attended that show how prepared you are and how much you understand about that subject. We just want to make sure that you know what you're applying for and that you've prepared yourself in doing that. So that's generally what we're trying to look for from a personal statement.
Amazing, brilliant advice, Hugh. Someone's asked, do you do mini tutorials or supervisions alongside your lectures?
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so I would say, when you start your course with us, you're automatically assigned an academic advisor. So alongside your studies, if you have any worries, you can speak to student ambassadors, you can speak to your advisor. Do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, so in terms of teaching styles, yeah, we do a mixture. So you'll have big lectures, they'll have, I think the biggest lecture theatre is about 600 people. That's over in University Place. So you'll have big lectures and you'll have those tutorials. So we don't call it supervision at Manchester, it's tutorials or seminars is sometimes what you might call them. So there'll be, how many people would you say were in your seminars?
I think it depended. In my seminars, it could be anything from like 10 people to maybe like in the 20s. Sometimes you can have like smaller workshops as well, which is smaller groups as well.
Yeah, you might also have lab-based work or project-based work as well. It all depends on your course, but we like to have that style of huge, big teaching bits, as well as a chance to have more of a conversation and ask and go through questions or problems that you might have. So yeah, you'll definitely have that whichever course you are at Manchester.
Amazing. Someone's asked, if I resit 2 A levels and have the grades with my 3 A levels, is my application still considered?
Generally, although you do need to check the resit policies for individual courses. So for some courses they will consider it, but you have to have achieved certain grades the first time round. So if you haven't achieved that, they won't look at your new resits. If there's extenuating or mitigating circumstances, you can get in touch with our admissions teams to explain that. But it's definitely worth just double checking those resit criteria, because it's slightly different for different courses, and it's worthwhile making sure you do that before you end up applying.
Brill. And someone's asked, how hard is the transferring process to Manchester from another uni?
It depends slightly. Sorry, I will definitely think of a different word apart from it depends. So, in terms of studying abroad, in terms of students' exchange programs and things like that, that's definitely a thing that we can support. If it's international students coming to Manchester, our students going to their universities, that's a pretty standard thing. If it's transferring into our course, it'll depend on if you want to go into the first year or the second year. For first year, we'll have to look at your A-levels or equivalents, as well as kind of what you've studied previously, so it will be a conversation with our admissions teams. For going into the second year, it tends to be quite unlikely, because the content that you would have to have learned at the university that you're currently at would have to match with the content at Manchester. Again, you need to get in touch with the admissions team directly just to double check, but it tends to be less common for either second year and definitely not for third year entry.
Bill, thanks Hugh. A good question from Liv. If we apply sooner versus later, will that affect our admission possibility?
No. So we call it the equal consideration deadline. So we actually treat everyone who applies the same. The only difference is kind of how quickly we do it, and that's not because we like making you wait for us. It just means that because we get so many people that apply just before the deadline, it takes us longer to get through all of them. So we recommend that you apply early, purely from like for your own perspective. You can focus on getting those grades that we'll be asking for, as well as being able to go through any admissions processes or interviews a little bit earlier on, so you've got more choice. So no, it won't affect your chances of being admitted. Courses won't close for undergraduates. It will do, it's slightly different for master's courses where that is the case, but for undergrad courses, it's not really going to change it. It just means that you have a slightly easier experience if you do apply early.
Brilliant, thanks. We've got a couple of questions from people just asking about like specific courses and the processes for that. So if you do have specific questions about courses, just drop the uni a DM on TikTok or Instagram or any of our other social channels, and we'll get back to you with more information on that. Someone's asked, how many points do you need for an average?
So we don't use UCAS points, we use grades. The average grade is probably about 3 A's at Manchester. We do have lots of other things that we look at. So we have a thing called contextual admissions. So for UK students, we'll look at your school, we'll look at your postcode. So it might be that we ask for slightly lower grades, but it'll always be actual grades that we ask for rather than UCAS points, which some of universities would ask for instead.
That's good to know. Someone's asking, can I get into uni doing a BTEC Applied Science Level 3?
I'm sorry. So all the requirements for BTECs are on all of the individual course profiles. For science courses, it can be a little bit tricky because quite often we actually need that A-level in science, and therefore it isn't always as possible. For medicine, for example, you wouldn't be able to be considered with the BTEC because we need the 2 A-levels in science, and it's not quite the same content. You're just worth double checking on each of the courses what we ask for with the BTEC, and we also in those pages also include what we ask for combinations. So if, for example, you're doing 1 applied science and 2 A-levels, that might be a little bit more flexible, but we do list it on all of our individual degrees.
Perfect, thank you. One about, again, starting uni, what happens during welcome week?
Do you remember back that far?
From my experience, I think when we had our welcome weeks, it was kind of a main introduction to the university, so meeting your tutors and your lecturers and understanding the setup of the whole year. And then also there was, is it like the Freshers' Fairs as well, and a lot of events around campus to to familiarise yourself with the campus and to be able to meet new people and understand the setup of how your academic year is going to go in terms of timetabling and things like that.
Yeah, and there might be more course-specific stuff as well. So you might be picking your optional modules if you've got a little bit more choice as part of your course. So it's just a nice welcome to university, and teaching will start the week after. So it's a little bit of time to get used to it before you're actually having to start learning all the formal stuff that you'll be doing for the rest of the 3 or 4 or 5 years that you'll be here.
Yeah, and there is loads going on this welcome week as well. And just to shout out our socials, we've got lots of information across our social channels, including a new Instagram broadcast channel. So go and check that out, and we'll be posting everything that's happening during welcome. Let me just find some more questions. Do you have any tips on getting a scholarship?
So, I'm desperately trying to avoid certain words. So, for UK students, about a third of UK students would get some sort of scholarship or bursary from the university. They're normally quite set criteria. So, for example, the Manchester bursary, which is based on household income, that is done automatically. So, there's nothing you need to do to apply for that one. It's kind of done automatically. There are other ones where students would apply. So, for example, we have the Raheem Sterling Scholarship, and we have the Cowrie Scholarships for Black Heritage students, and there is an application process there. So essentially it's a double checking the deadlines for those, seeing what you need to do, because normally you need to do kind of a supporting statement to go along with that. So research is the main thing, so just double check what the process is, see what you need to do. But for most of our main bursaries, it's an automatic process. It's something that we would flag automatically without you having to do anything actively.
Brill. We're still getting some questions about specific course entry requirements. So as Hugh mentioned earlier, if you head to our website and just check out the specific course that you're looking for, it'll have all the information on there that you need to see, the entry requirements and other things too. I don't know what this is, so I don't know if you guys will. When will the context eligibility tool be running?
Okay, so you can see that, the contextual admissions tool to calculator, it should be live now. Unfortunately, it's still the 2024 one. I imagine in the next week or two. It will be before you really start applying, so definitely in the next couple of weeks. So you'll be able to see if you'd be eligible for that lower offer. So if you look now, it will give you an indication, so it might give you a bit of an idea, but it's definitely worth double checking when the new 2025 tool goes live, which should have been in August, but now that we're on the 2nd or 3rd of September, I think we've slightly slipped. So next week or two, it should be the case.
Perfect. Another entry requirement one. If the entry requirement for a course is 3 years, would you consider A*, A/B for admission?
I would. I mean, the offer that would be made would be based on the grades, but I would apply potentially. It'll depend on the course and how competitive it is. But with that, I would put in an offer. Not an offer. Sorry. That would be nice if you could. I would put in an application just to kind of see. We'll have to look at your application. We'll have to see how strong your personal statement is. But if you were a grade off and you got the higher grade in another subject, I would try that out. I can't guarantee what will happen, but I think it's worth the effort.
Brilliant. This is an interesting question. If I reapply after missing the offer first time, so because I had to resit one subject, am I then guaranteed an offer the next year? No,
you're not guaranteed it. I mean, it's very likely to be the case, potentially, but they will look at your application kind of anew and look at you, it's kind of seeing what you're doing, because they'll have to look at what you're predicted in that reset, for example, and kind of what you expected to achieve. So it's not a guarantee, but it's certainly something that they would be able to look at again when they're considering your application. But it's kind of like a new one, unless you've already been in touch with the academic school and there might have been any extenuating or mitigating circumstances, which sometimes is a thing that we do, but generally it's not a guarantee, but it's certainly something we can consider.
Brilliant, thank you. Just looking through the questions. Do you still have the enormous Oxford Road Freshers Week pub crawl?
I'm not sure what the official university response to this one is. I'm sure there'll be many social events going on campus, whether it's official or not. Manchester is a very lively city, particularly when the students come back. It feels a little bit quiet at the minute. You were saying that it doesn't quite feel.
It's just very bizarre without all the students, I think.
So I suspect there'll be lots of social things that you can do, but I'm not sure that's a university organised one, potentially.
Yeah, go and check out the SU's website. They've got loads of freshers events happening, so you'll be able to find out more on there. And their Instagram's full of great content too. This is specific to social sciences. Which buildings are lectures classes in for social sciences?
So they'll be everywhere. So the main building for social sciences is called the Arthur Lewis building. He was a development economist. That was my degree back in the day, economic science. But that is where politics, sociology, social anthropology and philosophy are based. So that's where all your lecturers will be. That's where their offices are. You can go and speak to them if you have any problems, but your lecturers will be across campus, so they could be absolutely anywhere. What kind of buildings were you in, Mia?
I think mine varied so much. So obviously our main building was the Samuel Alexander building.
That'd be your version of that one.
Yeah. But when it came to lectures and things, sometimes I was in here, in the engineering building, other times I was in the humanities Bridgeford Street building, the Mansfield Cooper, so you're always spread out, and every year you're always changing buildings, so...
But spread out is quite a local one, because it's what, a 5-minute walk between everything, so it's alright.
Everything's still within walking distance, of course, yeah.
Another question, how do I apply? Quite simple.
Okay, so I can do the whistle-stop tour through the application process. So, you would create an account in UCAS. UCAS is a University and Colleges Admissions Service. Basically, it's a fancy website that coordinates how to apply for undergraduate courses in higher education in the UK. You'll create an account in the UCAS hub, so that gives you your basic details. It's also got a lot of search tools and stuff in there. Then you'll create an application, so this will have your name, your address, the school that you went to, the qualifications that you've got in the past, whether that's GCSEs or anything else if you're from everywhere else in the world, and also what qualifications you're taking now. So if you're doing A-levels or BTECs or whatever, you'll put in that you're going to do these. You'll then do a personal statement, so that's like an essay, it's 4,000 characters, 47 lines, that is essentially your little chance to tell us why you want to do this course and what the course is and what you know about it, that kind of thing, all about why this is the right decision for you. And then there'll be a reference that's provided usually by someone who has to know you from an education background, so normally a teacher or tutor. If you're from a school or college in the UK, there's usually quite a good process to kind of support you in doing this. Then, once you've created your application, as of tomorrow, so this is tomorrow, you're actually able to submit this to universities. You add choices into UCAS. You have up to 5 universities or courses that you can apply for. Theoretically, you could apply for 5 courses at Manchester, probably not the best idea. So usually it's more common to apply for 1 course at 5 different universities, maybe 2 courses at 1 university if you wanted to, it's your choice. And then you'll hear back from universities who will make you typically what's called a conditional offer, an offer that's based on getting certain grades, and you'll hear back from them by, depending on when you apply, it will be about May time, that's the time that we will have heard, but usually it'll be much sooner than that you'll have heard from us. And then it's June where you decide where you want to go. So you'll have already made your firm choice, the place you want to go, and your insurance choice, which is your backup. So that's normally kind of the best place to do. We have a virtual open week in November, so we do a whole day that's got virtual sessions, one of which is about finding out more about the application process. We also talk about more about this at the open day as well. So if you want to find out more, there's definitely fancies to do that. And we also have a section on our website that explains this in a little bit more detail.
Brilliant, thanks Hugh. Someone has asked, do you need A-levels to get into to do the courses at uni?
Not every course. So we have students from around the world, so they wouldn't have been able to take A-levels, so we'll look at what they've taken and compare that to what we're asking for from UK students. If you've done other qualifications in the UK, so like the T-level or BTEC, it really depends on the course and what you've studied and how that matches up. So it is easier in terms of there's many more people with A-levels, but we definitely consider other qualifications as well. So if you haven't done that, if in doubt, contact our admissions teams. They're here to help and they can talk you through and work out which is the best course for you or whether you'd be eligible for those degrees.
Amazing. Someone said, I'm from Texas and I'm trying to transfer to the UK. Are there plenty of international students?
Many international students.
Lots and lots.
Yeah, so we have a really active international society where you get to meet other international students. We have lots of students from the US in particular, so we have colleagues in the international office who do travel over to the US, and some colleagues that are actually based there. So, yep, you won't be alone. You'll definitely have people from your home country, and we have many societies based on individual countries. So when you're a student here, you also get to socialise with people, or people from everywhere else as well. So it's a nice chance to kind of build that community.
Perfect. Someone's asked, any tips for international students? I don't know if that's like tips for applying or tips for once at uni.
The application is pretty much the same. The only difference is we might need to see, obviously we might have to look for your application for slightly different things. So we're looking for the same broad academic skills, but we might need to also look at your English language qualifications. We do this for UK students, we look at their GCSEs, but we might need you to provide IELTS or other English language qualifications, so that there might be a little bit more to it. But from the application perspective, it's fairly similar. It should be pretty much the same for both. Have you got any advice for international students when they start?
I would say when you start, like if you come to the university as an international student, I would just say, I think this is kind of for everybody though, just put yourself out there, speak to as many people as you can, try and get involved, because there's so many things to do, and there's so many opportunities to meet people and try new things. So I think just dive right in and just try and do as many things as you can.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
I think that's the one.
Definitely.
Amazing. Josie's asked, how much is an EPQ valued?
Trying not to say it depends. So an EPQ, extended project qualification, is a really good thing to have. So it's always a helpful thing to account into your application, and it's the closest thing that you can get to studying at university before you go, because it's very much an independent project. You're doing independent research, you're using resources that you're finding and drawing on yourself. For certain courses at Manchester, mostly in our School of Arts, Languages and Cultures, so things like history or English literature, it would reduce the offer. So for example, we would do, for English literature, the standard offer would be 3 A's, and it would be 2 A's and a B with an A in the EPQ. So for a handful of courses, it will actually affect the offer. For the majority of other courses though, it will be something that we welcome, we'll look at it, but it won't affect the actual offer that you'll make. It says this exactly on every course, so it will tell you exactly whether it would affect the offer on every degree.
Perfect. When do you find out which buildings your lectures are in?
So for new students, it's when you get your timetable. So it will be early after, just before Welcome Week, you'll find out the events that are going on. So I'm sure that our new students that will be starting will know exactly where they are, hopefully in the next week or two. And then for other courses, again, you might find out soon or in that Welcome Week period. So sometimes it will depend on what modules and options you've chosen, so that you know when your tutorials and lectures will take place. So early or just before the Welcome Week that Mia mentioned earlier on.
Perfect. Meg has asked, when is housing applied for and how does it work in terms of first come, first served, etc.?
Want to take this one?
I'll let you go within
that's
the
fine.
of it, yeah.
That's fine. So you can apply as soon as you get an offer from us. We don't need to be your firm choice or your insurance choice. You can apply as soon as you get an offer. And the application usually opens in about December, so it can be quite early on that you can apply. You will rank 5 of our halls of residence as part of that application, so in kind of an order of preference, and then it's allocated once you actually get your results. So about 90% of students get one of their top 5. I can't guarantee it will be the top one, but it will be one of them. And we guarantee all students an offer of accommodation. For the UK students, that will be for the first year. For international students, it will be for the duration of their undergraduate study at Manchester. So you will get housing, there will be options, but it's allocated kind of everyone's in a similar kind of situation, so it's round results day.
Oh, Hugh, you've had a shout out. I met the staff member on the right at a UCAS fair and he was so nice. Can't wait to apply to UOM.
Oh, that is so sweet. Oh, thank you. It is lovely to hear. And the very short conversations we have at UCAS, so hopefully it helped, but that's very kind of you.
So we had this question before, but just for those who have joined since. If you don't like the course, can we switch?
Speak to us really early on. So it depends on what you want to switch to and from. Some courses, like if you want to change from biology to zoology, that's dead straightforward because it's got the same first year, you switch at the end of the year. Some other courses you can do that, but it's not always possible. I would say try and do this before you apply. Try and make sure your application is really clear and that you've done your research and you've been to an open day and you've really found out what that course involves. But if you do decide to change, at the point that you've decided, do decide to contact us early on. So it could be if you're still applying, you haven't been accepted yet, speak to us then and we can see what's possible. But if you do arrive and you think, oh, I'm not quite sure this is what I thought it was, speak to your admissions team, speak to your programme support people, and we can see what the options are. I can't guarantee there always is one, but there certainly is worth that conversation just to make sure that you find the right choices for you.
Someone's asking, where can we find the information mentioned in this live?
So in terms of the application process, if you go to, I'm trying to remember the website, so it's very much on the undergraduate and then applying. There's an applied section, and it's got all the bits about personal statement, general university policies, how to create a UCAS account. That's all on the main university page under study, undergraduate, and how to apply. There we go, I can remember it finally. There's also a similar one for master's students as well, so master's underneath that, how to apply. Hopefully that should guide you through it all.
Perfect. And how long does it usually take for us to hear back after we apply?
If you apply earlier, it'll generally be a little bit shorter. It depends, but I would say a month-ish is probably not that far off. It might be slightly longer if you're applying much closer to the deadline, but we generally try and do it somewhere between 2 weeks and a month is generally what we try and do. But we want to make sure that we've looked at your application fully and made that proper decision. We don't want to rush through it necessarily, but you should hear by then.
Perfect. Quite a specific question. Can I know a bit more about the airport support service stated on the website?
Oh, so there'll be more information about like travel. I think it'll be around an incoming student. So if you have a look on the welcome pages, there's be sections about international students travelling into the UK, or if you contact the welcome team, they should be able to guide you through kind of how to get to university accommodation from the airport. I think there's a programme to kind of help international students get here to Manchester. So if you contact them directly, they should be able to help.
Brilliant, thanks Hugh. A couple of questions about scholarships. So if you have any questions about scholarships, just drop us a DM on any of the university social channels and we'll get back to you with that information. Is it still possible to find accommodation for myself?
So the guaranteed deadline has now passed. If you haven't already applied and you're coming this September, I would contact the accommodation office today to see what the options are. They will do their absolute utmost to try and help, but the application guarantee deadline was the end of August. So I can't exactly say what the options will be, but they can try and help you as best as they can. There are alternatively other private options in Manchester, but contact our accommodation office first and they should be able to point you in the right direction.
Brill. What's the UCAT cut-off point for students that are involved in MAP?
So the UCAT cut-off point for MAP is the same as the one for contextually flagged students. It changes every year, so I can't give you the guarantee of this is exactly what the score is, but for last year it was 2,600 and either 20 or 40, so it's about 100 less than the typical score. So we are a bit more flexible when looking at the UCAT score for widening participation students as well as students doing our access schemes like MAP. But you should find that out as part through Decision Manchester. So when you go through Decision Manchester, they'll explain a little bit more about how it works for you and students that are taking part in MAP.
Thanks, Hugh. If someone is stuck between, say, a couple of universities for the first choice, how would you recommend that they decide?
Can I say this one?
Yeah, so I would say, personally, I think look at the course material, what speaks to you the most, and try and understand the different elements between each university when it comes to the course that you're looking to study. For me, I think what helped me as well was not only the course material, but the assessment methods as well. So which ones I thought spoke to me the most. And then I think also in terms of choosing university, especially if you have like hobbies or interests, maybe look which university supports that, and then the city itself, I'd say as well.
Yeah, different universities have very different feels. If you can, I feel like I'm plugging our open day quite a lot, but it's a good chance to come along and find out a little bit more. 28th of September, 12th of October. In the virtual one, if you can't attend in person, then we do also have some sessions about Manchester and students you can speak to. But if you can, which isn't possible for international students necessarily, but for UK students, if you can, try and visit just to see what it's like and to get the vibe of the city a little bit. It's very much about where you're going to spend the next 3 years, so you want to enjoy it and get the feel of the place really.
So someone is saying they're going to be studying econ at Bath University, but they're thinking about transferring. Would I have to reapply?
Yeah, You would. So if you want to transfer, first of all, before you do anything for UCAS, I would contact our admissions team just to see what's possible. It isn't always the case because our economics courses at Manchester are quite unusual in terms of how they're structured, and it might not always match up because it has other elements of politics and other social sciences in there, so it doesn't always match up with other universities exactly. So before you do anything, contact our admissions team. BAEcon at Manchester is on the website, you can find it. Just before you do anything, but it would need to be a reapplication. To come to any university, you have to actually go through UCAS formally for an undergraduate course.
Brilliant. This one's about masters, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to advise or if our website might.
Yeah,
so I'm an international master's student. I would love to know when tuition fees are usually due.
So it depends. It's a thing you can work through with the Student Services Centre. So you can pay tuition fees in full as part of registration. Otherwise, they can arrange a payment plan with you over the year. So it's a case-by-case basis where they can do that for you. With masters, it tends to be a little bit more done upfront, but they can arrange a payment plan with you kind of individually. So they can work through what dates they are. Usually, it's a bit like the I know it's different because it's not an undergrad course, but usually it's a bit termly, so they would do it at a certain point during the year. So a similar way, but it's a case of contacting our Student Services Centre when you want a complete registration and the financial bit of it.
Well, someone's asked how many people are there in one lecture. So Mia, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about your experience in your course.
I wouldn't know the exact amount, but I think you'll probably know more about specific numbers, but the lecture halls are very big, so you could get, maybe in a lecture you could have like 40 to 50 people, sometimes you could get more up to like 100 people.
Yeah, it depends on the course. So that was how big yours was. I had 600 in my politics lectures in my first year. So full big. No, it was about 500. No, 500. Big lecture theatre full of people for the introductory courses. What tends to happen for first year courses, because they're kind of more fixed, they tend to be bigger. Then you've got all your little tutorial sessions as well.
Yeah.
But then second year, third year, because you tend to have more options, they tend to get smaller.
Yeah.
So it all depends on what course you're applying to. So hopefully, like 50, I think is a nice number. I had that in my final year, but
it's not very realistic.
It's not
especially for first year, yeah.
Amazing. So this is from the same person who asked about UCAT and MAP earlier, so it's still relating to that. But what happens if you don't do as well on the UCAT, but you're on MAP?
You can speak to the MAP team. So UCAT is still a big part of the selection process. So essentially it's how we determine who's going to get through to the interview stage. So in general, for medicine, we probably interview somewhere between 12 and 1,500 people, and we use the UCAT as our cut-off. So it is an important element. So even if we've done MAP, we still focus on that, but we are more flexible in terms of the grades that we're asking for. So if in doubt, speak to the MAP team. They can help guide you through the process. For example, for students, when they've applied, there's a results time. They have a whole MAP phone line, so you can speak to them to kind of help you through anything. But if you don't think you've done as well, then have a chat with them and they can talk through what your options are. But you should find more about this through Decision Manchester anyway, because they'll be in touch with you for that early application, and they'll do that specifically for medicine and their connections there. So if in doubt, speak to them, but they will be in touch with you shortly as well.
Amazing. Hi guys, I would like to join UOM. What are the requirements for international students?
The international students is the same as UK students in general. So even for international qualifications, we match them up to what the grades that we'll be asking for. So we ask for the same A-levels, we ask for the same IB. So it's generally the same process overall. Just have a look at the general entry requirements. We have lots of entry requirements from around the world as well, so if it's one of those that isn't kind of on each course profile, if it's a little bit more niche, then you're always welcome to get in touch with the admissions team, and they'll be able to let you know what the exact grades from your country will be, but they will be the same as UK students.
Amazing. I think my course has a cap of 120 credits a year. Is there any way for me to take extra credits?
So 120 credits is the cap. The only way you can get over that is if you wanted to, for example, we have a program called LEAP, Language Experience for All Programs, where you can pay to do modules like that are outside of it. So you could do what you could do as part of your course, but actually externally. So that's the only real way. The reason for that is that 120 credits is a full-time job. It's 1,200 hours of work. That's what that credit means. Every credit is 10 hours of work. So that is 40 weeks, 30 hours a week, and it's very much about you're either going to be in lectures and seminars and sessions, or you're doing independent work and kind of reading. So the 120 is because it's the amount of work that you need to do. So we don't want to let you do more because you'll be overwhelmed and it'll be too much work to do really. So that's the reason why there is that cap, and that's the same for every course, whether it's for modern languages, whether it's economics, whether it's engineering, it's the same principle. Just the style of teaching is different, and that's why some courses have more contact time than others, because it's the way you need to learn.
Amazing. I want to do neuroscience, but I know I'll get a lower predicted grade for one of my subjects, AAC. Should I still apply? I also have contextual and extenuating circumstances.
Okay, I would probably in that circumstance just contact the admissions team just to check. Particularly where there are extenuating or mitigating circumstances, it's helpful for them to know that, and they'll be able to let you know what the typical offer would be. So because we don't use points, it doesn't quite average out, but the typical requirements for neuroscience is somewhere between 3 A's and 2 A's in the B anyway. So it could be, if I was in your boat, your situation, I would say contact them and they can let you know how likely it is they will be able to consider you and make you an offer because of the specifics to your case. I think they can help with that. Perfect,
thanks you. If someone doesn't know that whether university is the right choice for them, how would you recommend that they be sure?
That's a really hard question. How are you sure? How did you work it out when you went to come to Manchester?
I think for me, obviously, again, the question was whether you want to come to university.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I thought about what career path I wanted to go down, and I think even if you're not sure, I think it's good to maybe. For me, I love jotting notes down, so I think I kind of weighed out the pros and cons of coming to university, explored all the different possible options, and then I kind of went off what interested me the most, and then obviously from there I decided that I wanted to come to university, and I chose Manchester specifically because of the course that I chose, and I thought it was there was a good community for what I wanted to do, and then the city itself as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's also a lot of resources about higher education generally on UCAS, and if you're trying to choose whether to go to a particular university, the more research you can do, the better. The more you can look at the courses and the details and the modules will help you decide. And you should do that generally to help think if that's something you can see yourself doing in 3 years' time, because you want to enjoy yourself, because going to university is such an independent process that you're the only person that's going to get yourself out of bed for that 9 o'clock lecture. So therefore, it being something you're interested and passionate about and thinking it will help you in a particular career will really help you do that. You don't drift into going to university, you want to go there. That's my general advice.
Amazing. If I have low predicted grades and apply with them but achieve higher grades in the final exams, can I still get in? Or if I've been declined with my predicted, is there no chance?
If you have been declined because of your low predicted grades, but you do much better than expected, you can absolutely speak to us during clearing. So if there's vacancies at results day, absolutely that's something that you can do. So just because we might have declined you in the past, the circumstances have changed actually. You have got much higher grades than expected, so that is something else that we can look at. That is absolutely fine. So you can get in contact with us. We have a phone line. It was there. That would be me that you might have spoken to at results time for anyone who's coming into this year. And we can talk you through what the options are, what courses have got vacancies, and what grades or what we could accept you for with the grades that you have. So no, it could absolutely be something that you do, but that would be something you contact us on when you actually have those results.
Amazing. Could you switch from psychology to neuroscience and psychology?
You'd have to speak to them now. So they are two different departments. You've got the psychology teaching is the same, but you're actually not doing that biology. So obviously you wouldn't be able to do that halfway through because you wouldn't have done any of the neuroscience parts that you needed to know. If you interested about changing now, contact the admissions team for in the biosciences. So that will be for the neuroscience and psychology course, and they can tell you what the options are if it is possible. But because you've learned so much on one compared to the other, you probably won't be able to do this beyond perhaps the first week. So it might not be possible at this stage, but get in touch with them, get in touch with the admissions team. The email address is on the course profile for the course you're interested in changing to, and they can let you know what the possibilities are if that is something that can be done.
Brilliant. I think we'll wrap it up there because we've hit our time and I think we've managed to answer most of those questions. So I'll pass over to you guys to just sign out.
Yeah, so thank you guys for joining our live today. We hope it was helpful. And if you have any more questions, especially if it's more course specific, feel free to contact us on social media, or if you want to contact the university directly.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, everyone.